segueing that into our Buffalo team preview. Brady, this team went 12-5 last year. And, you know, the interesting part I thought about their offseason was, you know, they had that opportunity. There was no Mahomes. There was no Chiefs in the playoffs this year. Basically, all the pressure was on the Buffalo Bills to go out and make the Super Bowl and potentially win it without Mahomes in Josh Allen's way. And the way people want to talk about Josh Allen is, since he is the best quarterback in the league, he should have been able to do that. And what happened was Sean McDermott gets fired. You have Brandon Beane, who hasn't drafted a Pro Bowler since 2022, got promoted in the offseason. And the way I looked at Buffalo's offseason was, it's a bunch of doing the same exact stuff they have been over the last 5 to 6 years, and they're expecting different results. They needed a complete culture change, and they went with Joe Brady, who was their offensive coordinator. And the most concerning part for me with that is you got rid of Sean McDermott, and while he's had his playoff shortcomings against the Chiefs, he still has produced a top 12 defense over every single year of his career throughout his Buffalo Bills tenure. So I think defensive coaching is something that I'm watching this year, and there may be a little bit more regression on that side for Buffalo because that unit doesn't look overly talented right now.
Well, here's the thing. You mentioned the defenses, and I think that McDermott did a really good job of creating consistent regular season defenses that were strong units. The problem, and what ultimately got him fired, was that I believe in 9 of the 15 playoff games Josh Allen has played in his career, the Bills allowed 30 or more points. They were a team that was not built for January. And a lot of that, you could say, like, their kryptonite was Kansas City and Mahomes and what they like to attack. And there were injuries some years, like in 2023. But at the end of the day, you have to get it done. And especially, I made a video about this a few weeks ago. I hate that the term playoff choker gets thrown so hard at Josh Allen. He has had his shortcomings, and he certainly isn't just blameless in all of these losses. But there have been multiple times throughout the Josh Allen era where he has played more than good enough to win a playoff game, and the defense has sold him. Or, you know, you get a Stephon Diggs drop against Kansas City. You get a missed field goal against Kansas City. You have 13 seconds. All these things that happen that, like, don't directly correlate to Josh Allen. And I think when it comes to the Joe Brady hiring, I like it. And I think that they wouldn't have signed off on it if it wasn't what Josh Allen wanted. I know we had the reports yesterday that, people are in the Bills organization are getting frustrated because of how much say Josh Allen has. Josh Allen should have more of a say. This defense has sucked for a few years. They're a talentless group as a whole, as a roster, in my opinion, not just the defense, but you look at what they've given him receiver help wise. Look at other teams and what they do. Kansas City, like young Mahomes, he had Tyreek, he had Kelsey, Drake May. They go out and get AJ Brown for him. The Chargers, even, they draft a Lad McConkey. The Broncos, they go get Jalen Waddle. And your big move is to go get DJ Moore, who really has not been all that good for the last 2 years.
And the thing with DJ Moore is they paid a second-round pick for him as well.
Yes.
It was an overpay, and this is a team, and this is the thing I'll push back on your receiver point, and I'll let you finish, is this team is built around running the football. This is not a pass-first offense.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that they have done a good job setting that up. The offensive line is very strong with the 2 tackles, Dawkins and Spencer Brown. The interior is pretty good outside of Osiris Torrance, and James Cook is obviously a beast. But when it comes to January, you've got to have these guys that can win. I mean, Josh Allen has shown he can elevate guys that are mid-tier guys. He's elevated a Gabe Davis. They brought in the ghost of Brandon Cooks last year in November, and that instantly became like their number one, and him and Josh Allen were able to connect. Khalil Shakir, that's been your number one for the past few years. Keon Coleman hasn't panned out. And I think you look back at that Denver game, and Allen certainly had his mistakes. That fumble before the half, the interception in the third quarter. But even then, like, that was not a very good team. And I feel like Allen took them farther than a lot of other people would. But what frustrates me with their offseason is that I still feel like most of these needs they did not address. To me, it feels like getting DJ Moore is putting a Band-Aid over a dam. Like, there are a lot of things that need to change. And even you look at this defense, how are they going to, outside of Greg Rousseau, how are they going to create pressure? Even Greg Rousseau himself is not an S-tier pass rusher, but he's the best they have. He's better by far than anybody else on the team. You look at the secondary, I think they have the potential to be okay. You added C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who got hurt. Benford's a corner. Bishop's a good safety. Maxwell Harrison looked talented as a corner last year, but your run defense is horrible. You can't stop the run. Your pass offense, like your receiving core, is not great. I just think you look between New England and Buffalo. What Buffalo has going for them is that they have Josh Allen. They have, over the last 3 years, statistically, the best quarterback in the league. And roster wise, though, New England, I think, is a lot better roster. They're a lot more complete. I think there are a lot less question marks around New England's roster than there is for Buffalo. And both of these teams have a really tough schedule, especially early on for Buffalo. I think 3 of their first 4 games are the Texans, the Patriots, and the Chargers. And then they face the Rams later on in the year. They face Kansas City as always. Like, they've got a tough draw of it as well. And I'm really excited to see that week 1 matchup against Houston. It's going to tell us a lot about this team because Allen has historically really, really struggled against those guys. And I want to see how this offense with Joe Brady as the head coach, not just the OC, responds in that type of challenge. But I think that this is a team that they'll be right in the thick of it with New England. I've got them going 11-6 and being a wild card in the AFC once again this season.
Yeah, I think with Buffalo, the interesting part is with them. We talk about schedules with the Patriots and the Bills. The Bills actually have a harder schedule according to Vegas win totals this year. So add in that, I think with this Buffalo team, their identity is built on running the football, quick game RPOs, and basically chewing clock on some of these other teams on offense. I know Joe Brady in the past has had different offenses in that regard, but under Joe Brady, this team is basically not given any wide receiver a chance to take on a bigger role and in that passing game. You've seen even prime Stephon Diggs got basically pushed out of Buffalo throughout Joe Brady's time as an offensive coordinator because this offense isn't built around that. And that's why they're the number 1 rushing offense in football. And that's helped them kind of shorten these games and play more ground and pound, that type of football. But when they get to the postseason and you got to pass the ball around, that doesn't work when you have these mid-level receivers who haven't developed in a pass-first offense, and then you have Josh Allen trying to go play Superman, and then he turns the ball over like he did against the Broncos because he's trying to do too much. That's what we've seen from this team. I think my biggest criticism of Buffalo entering the year is I don't trust Brandon Beane. He doesn't construct a good roster, and this team over the last few years have gotten progressively worse. The holes have become more noticeable, and they're just banking on Josh Allen carrying this team to another great season. And we just saw this in Kansas City, that you could have a great quarterback, but eventually the dam is going to break and all hell is going to break loose. And if something happens to Josh Allen, I mean, this team is beyond screwed. Like I don't want to compare it to the Kansas City situation from last year, but there is a possibility this year where everything breaks for Buffalo because of the poor construction and drafts over the past few years. But
yeah, they're not deep. Their strategy is literally Josh Allen save us. Like
Josh Allen and James Cook, you guys are going to play chew clock. We're going to have 10 to 12 play drives, and we're going to average 6 yards per carry. Josh Allen's going to be great around the goal line, and we're going to find a way to win. That's their strategy. And if they have any injuries up front, because they've had the best offensive line over the last 5 years, according to Pro Football Impact, like this offensive line has been the most underrated unit in football. They've been so good over this stretch, and
they're maulers for sure.
And they've been getting older too. So if this offensive line regresses, maybe we see that. So with Buffalo, I have my concerns. The defensive side of the ball without Sean McDermott is going to take a step back. But at the end of the day, they still have Josh Allen, and it's incredibly hard to bet against them. I know you predicted them at 11-6. I think it's going to be right around that. I think they're a 10.5 team too. I have Buffalo right at that 11 to 12 win mark. Kind of them in New England, I feel like one of those two are going to underperform expectations by 2 games. I don't know which one it's going to be, but I have a feeling that the AFC East, despite having 2 bottom feeders in the Jets and the Dolphins, I think one of these 2 teams this year are going to have that 2-game swing that we're going to be like, what?
Well, let me ask you this. When it comes to the 2 games between New England and Buffalo, what do you think? Are you thinking a split? I'm thinking a split. I think they play in week 4 in Buffalo, and I think the Buffalo wins that game. And I think it's an inverse of last year, where Buffalo wins at home early in the year and New England wins in Gillette in December, which will be the more impactful win.
I think a split is just safe to say. I think
it is. It's tough to say between how good these 2 teams are. It's tough to predict.
Okay, here let's play devil's advocate here. Compared to Buffalo and New England, who has a better chance of dropping 1 game to Miami and New York this year?
I think it's the Bills, because look at last year. They are prone to a disaster game in a way that I don't think the Patriots are, and it's a little tough to say because we haven't seen Joe Brady's head coaching style and how his game management works. But you look at Vrabel and you look at this organization, all 3 games that they lost last year, even the embarrassing week 1 loss to the Raiders, were all close losses. And Vrabel coaches in a way where it's really tough for a game to just get away from these guys. And if they're able to keep it close with a team like the Dolphins or the Jets, like we saw when they played the Bengals without Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase last year, like that game was close and they kept it close enough to where they were just able to pull away off of being the better team and the better coach team at the end. I don't think the same applies to Buffalo. Look at that Miami game last year in Miami. It got away from them early and it just continued to slip away, and they ended up getting blown out by the Dolphins in Miami. I think that just the way that the Bills are structured, and again, how top heavy they are with Allen and Cook, if a team like that is able to just slow those two down, it's a long day for Buffalo. There's not other answers across the board for them the way there is in New England. Hey, our offense isn't playing well today. We can rely on our defense to keep us in this one. Hey, our defense isn't playing well, but the offense is scoring a lot. Hey, A.J. Brown's getting locked up, but we still have our run game. We still have Romeo Dobbs. I just think there are more avenues for overcoming tough starts against bad teams in games like that for New England than there is for Buffalo.
And I'll say this, I'm going to keep it a lot more simple than you. I would also say New England has a better chance of not dropping one of those games because of that run defense. Being able to stop the run, especially against the Dolphins, who we know are going to be a heavy run team this year, the Jets, who are going to have to rely on Breece Hall because we know Geno Smith is going to throw the ball to the other defense. If you can stop the run, that gives you a chance. So I'll take New England in that scenario. So overall, I think with Buffalo to close and wrap this preview up, we're a little bit concerned that they can match their previous success. And we're not saying this is the year that Josh Allen finally gets that Super Bowl ring.